So I have 10 eyeshadows here from Looxi Beauty that my friend Catherine B. Beauty was so kind to give to me. She placed an order for 10 of her favorites because she wanted to hear my thoughts about the formula. This actually is not my first time trying Looxi Beauty. I did have a few of their eyeshadows at the very beginning of my indie makeup journey, but I have not placed an order with them since the before times, like the beginning of 2020, I think. So it's been a while. It's been 3 years at this point. If you're not familiar with Looxi Beauty, they are an indie makeup brand that sells single shadows at a $3 price point, which is awesome and pretty unheard of in the current indie makeup landscape. I don't know if they're private label or not. I don't have enough private label products to be able to confirm that. The reason why I stopped purchasing from them is because it was so hard for me to be able to tell from their website what product I would actually be getting. I find their swatches to be very unreliable. They don't really have a social media presence. There was just multiple instances where I had purchased an eyeshadow thinking I was getting one thing and it turned out being absolutely nothing like how it was represented online. So I just took a break from them and then kind of fell into a bunch of other brands and hadn't felt the desire to go back. Catherine and I have been chatting about different indie makeup brands, and she was like, I would love to hear your thoughts on Looxi now that you've tried so many different formulas. I want to know what you think. So I'm going to do some detailed swatches, comparisons, and tell you my first impressions. I've worn all these on my eyes once at this point, but I don't feel comfortable talking about like creasing or wear time. I know a lot of people have issues with creasing with Looxi shadows. I tend to not really get creasing at all, so I don't know that I'm the best resource to talk about that. But in any event, I just want to show you all these shadows and let you know my first thoughts. Let's start with Ube, which I believe is a cult classic from Looxi if I recall correctly. This is described as a gorgeous purple shade with shifts pink, green, and blue. And I would describe this as a sheer purple base that shifts from green to blue to purple, and a slight pink shift from a very harsh angle. It has a small particle size, very finely milled, and feels kind of like lightweight almost. This has more of a sheeny, reflective finish rather than sparkly or piecey. I would say this is a pretty beginner friendly one, but I can't speak confidently about how it wears or stuff like that. Next up, we have the other purple, Painted Lady, which is described as a dazzling metallic purple with shifts of blue and silver. Yeah, I would say that's a pretty spot on description. It has a grape purple base and it's a pretty opaque base. Then it has a piecey sparkly finish that shifts from silver to blue. This is a really similar one. You'll see in the comparisons, it's really similar to some of the more expensive multi-chrome shades I have. This does feel like a thicker formula, so if you're very prone to creasing, I would say maybe see if you can find some reviews from people who touch on that. I've worn it once, it didn't crease on me, but again, I don't really get a creasing. It did leave behind a purple stain when swatched and used on my eyes, but it washed off easily. Staining is not an issue for me, but I know it is for some of you, so I always try to mention it if it's something I notice. Snickerdoodle is described as a silvery green shade with shifts of pink, red/purple, turquoise, and gold. That description is kind of all over the place, and I don't know that I would agree with any of it. To me, this reads as a taupey base with a ton of different colored flecks of sparkle. I see silver, blue, teal, and then it shifts primarily from teal to purple. Almost reminds me of Carving from Clionadh, which I'll show you later in comparisons. This has been the one I've reached for the most out of all 10 of these. I find it so easy to reach for if I want to add a little bit of extra dimension to a look or just like tap it on the center of something. So good, such a good spicy neutral, definitely my favorite. Here's Abracadabra. Let me read you the description from the website. Magic in a pan. This unsuspecting silvery shade transforms and shifts to purple, blue, silver, yellow, and gold. Again, this description is all over the place and I don't think it's really accurate at all. Don't get me wrong, this eyeshadow is beautiful. I just don't agree with the words that they use to describe it. To me, this is a mid-tone, warmer brown base, and then it shifts from green to teal to blue. I see a bunch of blue and silver flecks of sparkle in it. It's quite similar to Snickerdoodle, and I'll swatch them side by side later. I'd say the main difference is the base is a little bit deeper and warmer, and overall it reads as more of a green rather than a teal, which I see in Snickerdoodle. Jeepers Creepers is described as a sparkly green with undertones of brown and shifts of yellow and pink. To me, this appears as a reddish brown base, and then it has shifts from green to gold, and then I see like a pink burgundy shift as well. It reminds me of like a more toned down, everyday friendly version of Asteria from Devinah or Zigzag from Glam Shop. I will say this does feel very dimethicone, or not squishy, but it almost has like some slip to it, and Catherine did warn me that some of their eyeshadows are quite dimethicone. That's not an issue for me. I don't like squishy shadows, but I don't mind this type of formula, but I just want to make you aware if you're considering purchasing this. Next up, the Monarch. This is described as a bronzed brown with shifts of rose and gold. I would say that's pretty accurate. It has a mid-tone warm brown base, and then it shifts from a almost like a mauve to a gold. Very muted, very everyday friendly. I will say this feels very thick, and in one swipe, I'll swatch it later, but you'll see in one swipe it does apply pretty patchy. It takes a little bit of extra time to use, but the color and shift is very beautiful and unique. Social Butterfly is described as a golden bronze shade with shifts of brown, purple, and red. To me, this reads as like a bronzy, almost reddish base, and then it has a ton of different gold sparkles, and it shifts from gold to teal primarily. This has been another one that I've reached for a ton. I love how dimensional and sparkly it is, but still approachable and easy to use. If I'm using like a warmer tone look, I use Social Butterfly, and then if I'm using like a cooler tone look, I go for Snickerdoodle. So those have been my two favorites so far. Fuzzy Flamingo is described as a peach shade with shifts of purple, gold, indigo, and pink. This to me reads as a pastel coral base, and I see mainly a shift of soft gold, and then it goes into teal, and then a little bit of blue or even purple from a super harsh angle. You're mostly going to see that gold with a bit of teal in an everyday situation. It's pretty piecey and sparkly, but not overly textured. The base is semi-sheer. I love how summery but like pastel and soft this is. I can definitely see myself using this a lot. Margarit-ahh is described as a gold/electric green shade with a shift of red/orange. I would say that's a pretty accurate description. It has a primary yellow base and then sparkles that shift from green to like straight into this pinkish reddish tone. I do see that yellow base showing through a lot, which is not something very common in these types of eyeshadows. This is actually a spot on dupe to a much more expensive shade from Shine by Essie. Obviously the texture and formula is different, but in terms of tone and shift, they are spot on, so I'll show you comparisons later. Last one we have here is called Peacock, and this is described as a golden orange with shifts of green, blue, yellow, and purple. To me, this reads as a reddish brown base, and then it shifts from gold to teal to blue. Pretty similar to a couple shades I have in my collection, which I'll show you in comparisons. This has a more dimethicone formula, but it has a bit of sparkle to it. Really pretty gold shade, and I love to see it at that lower price point. Okay, so for this segment, I got the idea from my friend Cassie, A Makeup Journey. She did this with her Lethal Cosmetics shadows. I'll link her post below. But I wanted to swatch all 10 of these shades, and I'm going to pop up a picture from Looxi's website of their swatch as I'm doing each shade. And I'm not doing this to prove a point. I'm not doing this to say my swatches are accurate and theirs are inaccurate, because obviously there are so many factors that can determine how a swatch looks, such as skin tone, skin undertone, lighting, camera, so many things. It's just more so to satiate my curiosity, and I thought maybe you guys would be interested in seeing it too. Something that was interesting that I noticed is that a lot of the times I felt like the shadow in real life looked way better than their swatch photo. And as someone who does swatch photos for a few brands for their website, I can kind of clock when photos are being edited in a certain way to give a swatch a certain appearance. Like, to me, it looks like the contrast has been turned up on a lot of these and the saturation, and honestly I feel like it's almost doing the shadows a disservice. But regardless, I think the biggest disservice they're doing to both themselves and their customers is having only one or two swatches on one skin tone, which honestly I don't think is excusable at this point. There are literally so many talented creators who can do swatches. It was so easy to commission swatchers with different skin tones for my collab, and we had basically no marketing budget, so I just don't have any patience or sympathy for brands who are failing to do that at this point. Let me know if you have any thoughts about this in the comments. Comparison time. Okay, from left to right we have Clionadh Reflectance, Devinah Shuggies, and then Ube up by my wrist. The two on the left are iridescents. I didn't have anything with a purple base like Ube, but I would say these shifts are pretty similar and they create a similar effect. From left to right, we have Terra Moons, Moontide, Clionadh Regal, and Clionadh Royalty, and then we have Painted Lady up by my wrist. It's not quite as shifty as the ones on the left, but like I think it creates a very similar effect for literally $3, so that's pretty cool. From left to right, we have Shine by Essie, Breakthrough, Clionadh Carving, Snickerdoodle, and then Abracadabra. Breakthrough is the most finely milled and like refined, and then Carving is slightly more shifty, but so similar to the two Looxi shades in my opinion. Any comparison shade with an asterisk I received in PR, everything else I purchased myself. From left to right, we have Glam Shop, Zigzag, Devinah, Asteria, and then Jeepers Creepers at the top. Like I said, they are like indistinguishable from straight on, but from an angle, the two on the left have a bit more of that burgundy shift. From left to right, we have the Monarch, Devinah Centaurus, Devinah Lynx, and then Social Butterfly at the top. These two Looxi shades were very hard to find comparisons for in my collection. This is another one I struggled to find comparison shades for. From left to right, we have Terra Moon's Galactic Blossom, Clionadh Empress, and then Fuzzy Flamingo at the top. This was perhaps the most shocking revelation when I was finding comparison shades. From left to right, we have Terra Moon's Pollux, Shine by SD Dangerous, and then Margarit-ahh at the top by my wrist. As you can see, the Shine by SD shade is pretty much identical in terms of tone and shift. Finally, from left to right, we have Devinah Celesta, Terra Moon's Hot Spice Cider, and then Peacock at the top. Peacock is slightly lighter, but otherwise it is like pretty spot on, especially for Hot Spice Cider. That's pretty much all I've got for you today. Thank you so much again to Catherine B. Beauty. She is a wonderful friend. Definitely subscribe to her channel if you are not already. I love her videos so much. Let me know if you've tried Looxi Beauty, if you have any favorites that you think I should check out, if you've added anything to your wish list after this video. Let's chat about it in the comments. Otherwise, that's going to be it for this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel if you're not already. Other than that, I will see you in the next one. Bye!